Okay, glasses. Hi. So my question is, would you consider doing like anything else, DC or even Marvel?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I don't. To me, I'm just as much of a fan as you guys are. Whether it's Fast and Furious or Iron Man or you know, even the DC world. I mean, I'd like to see the DC world. I think as we all get a little, like, loosen up a little bit and have a little more fun. And I think that's just, I don't know, maybe some people are wrong. But I will say this, I thought about this on the way to come to this event today. It's really up to you guys. And it's like a vote, okay? And voting isn't about, it's not whether I say it or not. You guys vote with your wallets and with your clicks. And I mean that. These companies follow everything you do, especially you guys with loyal fan bases. What you click on, what you buy, and what movies you go see, that's all filtered through computers, and they try to make another version of that for you guys. So you guys have a voice. I didn't even have my job if it wasn't for you guys watching me. So it really is you guys. Going back to your question, sorry to go on that rant, I mean, yeah, why not? It's such a fun place to play. You get to do all these extraordinary things that really are just metaphors for how we feel as human beings to begin with. And I think it allows us to explore these genres of humanity that are just, you know, aren't so easily expressed all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, number one from over this side.
So vote with your wallets. I don't even know what that means.
Hi there. One of my favourite episodes, because it really surprised me, was there was an episode of Smallville where you played a different version of Clark Kent, i.e. the Bizarro kind of evil version, but you didn't find out until the very end of the episode. I kind of wondered how much of that in the script kind of showed you how to act just a little bit different, because it was very surprising, the kind of twist at the end.
I can't say I remember. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm like trying to. Do you remember when? Yeah, I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't remember. I'm sure there was probably. I'm sure when you know, you always break down a script into different, you know, obviously the scripts in the show as you watch it has 4 different acts, and you break all these things down, and there was probably something about let's not let the audience know until this one moment, which then if they go back and it forms what the characters did. But I'm so sorry, I don't specifically remember what that plan was. I mean, I think we only did like 220 of them. So there's a few I remember, like somebody brought a book over today, and it was like a Smallville book, and I was like, oh, I remember that. And they're like, of course you do. And I'm like, no, there's like a lot of stuff that we did. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember. But so I'm sorry I can't be more helpful.
That's okay.
Okay, next one from over here. Yep. Yeah.
Hello, Sol.
Hello.
Hello. A big fan. How was it to work with Christopher Reeve?
Humbling, very humbling. That was a really cool experience because, I mean, I grew up watching Superman. When people say Superman, I think of him. Still do, always have. So I knew about his physical condition. It was one of those meetings where they're like, Tom, we need to talk to you upstairs. You know, we came from set and they're like, we need, hold the set, come up, and I'm like, oh God, what did I do? Like really, I just started. So we went in and there were like 6 producers and blah, blah, and they're like, listen, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get on a flight, I think it was like a Thursday. We're gonna fly to New York City, we're gonna shoot with Christopher Reeves for as long as we can on Friday. He's only, or whatever it was, whatever it is. He can only shoot for 4 hours because physically he's not allowed to do more than that. So you be ready because it's not about you. We're gonna, you know, make sure you get him. We get there, he rolls in, he's making jokes. He's very much aware of his condition, what he can and cannot do. He stayed for I think 9 hours that day. He wouldn't let the nurses make him leave. And what, from an acting standpoint, he literally could not use his body. And if you watch that episode, what he does just with the dialogue and the small movement that he did have, how he could inform what that character was trying to say. It really resonates. And so being in the room with someone like that, it wasn't very hard for me to feel the Dr. Swan energy, if you know what I mean. I was very much moved by it. But he was a great guy. He actually said to me, he said, I'm really glad that they chose you to play the next Superman. And I was like, no, they didn't. And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. He's like, why not? I mean, That's exactly how they, I did say, no they didn't. I know I did say that. And then he was like, well, why not? And I said, well, because then they have to shut Smallville down for a year and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, okay. He goes, he did say you'd be a great Superman. That was a great, like, what an honor to have him say that. So it was a very memorable experience. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks.
Okay, one more from over? Well, loads more, but yeah.
How's it going, Tom?
What?
Tom.
Hi.
Hey. Tom, if you were like presented with a script, a really well-written script to play Jor-El in Supergirl, what would you say?
The Supergirl television series?
Yeah.
I think that's a great show. I think from a tonal, is this coming from a guy with a Batman t-shirt on? Yeah. I figured, I saw you were there. No, I'm just joking. That show is a very different, it's a lighter in tone than what Smallville was. I don't, in my head, I haven't seen a version of the character that I played, the way I played it or the way we played it, surviving there. I know they have a Superman, but that's a different Superman in a sense. You can never say never to appear. I mean, Smallville, we had a lot of people come back and play characters on our show. Could that happen? Yeah. Is it going to happen soon? Probably not. Only because there's other things that I'm sort of looking forward to doing. But it's fun, and even as a fan for myself, watching other shows that I watch, seeing people occur, and so it's like, oh, I know that guy, or how that informs how it makes it different. It's a fun fan experience, and I recognize that. I mean, I just said it, but Fast and Furious, like, you know, when The Rock showed up in the Fast and Furious, I was like, yes! Like, sorry, I like that stuff. You know, I get it. But I think it's just a matter of finding the right way in that's justified and sort of makes sense, and probably not overthinking it, unlike Rock.
Thank you.
Okay, from over this side?
Hi.
What's up?
For me, the music in Smallville was really important.
Yeah.
So what was it like as an actor when you shoot a really emotional scene without music, and when you directed, were you always thinking what music was going to be played over the top of this?
That's a really great question, and I'll answer it in a couple different ways. One, I think it's one of the best theme songs for any television show, especially when it's about. I mean that seriously. Like, even when that comes on, it's a badass theme song, especially for a show like that. I mean, the words are right there. Somebody save me. You know, the meteor comes down, and it's like, ah. And the funny thing is, the band who made they were on the show one time, and I remember being so excited that they were going to be on the show and they were going to make a cameo, and we had this whole, like, I don't know, it was a prom or something, or a party, and they were going to be on stage. And I remember, like, I can't wait to meet these guys. They're like rock stars and stuff. And, you know, they like wouldn't come out of their trailer, so we had to shoot something else. Like, oh, they must be busy, they're rock stars. And then, like, it was like 2 hours, and then finally they were like, we had to stop everything in this direction. If you guys know anything about film production, to like turn the lights from this way to this way is a big deal. It's very expensive, it takes a lot of time. So anyway, they're like, stop what you're doing. We turned this way. They came out. They lip synced on the song like 3 times, and in my mind, I was gonna walk out. I was like, hey guys, what's up? Yeah, I played Clark. So, I didn't realize it, but then, so I'm like, yeah, these guys are badass. And then they're like, cut. I'm like, right. And they all walked off the back, and I'm like, I'll go see them behind stage. I went behind stage, they weren't there. I opened up the door, the bus was leaving. Like, they were just gone. They showed up, they did their thing, and they left. And I was like, oh, this is like a showbiz lesson. Got it. It was cool. But to get back to your question, sorry to ramble on. The music normally is not playing during a love scene or an action scene. It's not there. It's funny how sometimes actors will make their own sound effects during a fight sequence. A lot of people do it, like, and then you're like, shit, you're not supposed to do that. Sorry, kids. Because that's what you did as a kid. You made those sound effects. But when you get into the editing room and how the editors and the music editors, you know, you'll watch a scene between Lex and Lana, and you'll be like, yeah, this is good, this is a good performance. And then they'll be like, watch this. And they roll the music behind it, and you're like, oh, damn. Like, it really elevates what's called the emotionality of the scene. Now, when you're acting in a scene, you can't be like, I'll just half-ass this, but put the music in, it'll look great. You can't really do that. It doesn't really work that way. But if you, like, I will watch some things with the sound off. Like, the episodes that I directed, I would before I would sign off on a final edit, I would always watch the episode with no sound, and just to see if I could get the story out that way. And then I would watch it with dialogue, and then I would watch it with sound effects, and then I'd watch a final one. That was just sort of my process, and if it all kind of added up enough, then, you know, hopefully we were able to sign off on it. So there's different elements of it, for sure. There's been stories I know of other actors who in different sequences have played music on set. I haven't been around that, but it's a different, apparently it's a big deal because it confuses the guys with the lights and the cranes. You can't hear the director, so it becomes a different thing. A lot of times that's why a set is so quiet, usually. Sorry, that was very long-winded.
Okay, the one from over here.
I'd point to you.
Hi, Simon. Thanks for hanging out with us in London. Appreciate it. So obviously Smallville was like 10 years. When you filmed that final scene, when you wrapped, what was like your feeling knowing that you'd done it all and that was the end of it?
Okay, this is exactly what happened. First of all, I said I didn't want to work the last 2 days of the show, okay? I made that clear, because I figured that the last 2 days of that series finale episode was just going to keep, like, it wasn't going to be done, it wasn't going to, so I figured it out where I didn't have to work the last 2 days of physical production. And luckily enough, I only had to work half of that final day that I worked. So, it was a green screen thing, I think they had me tied up and I was like moving around in the air or whatever it was. And it was like, okay, let's just do one more. Just for safety, because literally I'm done after this. And if we don't get this right, I'm already driving past the border in, down to California. So we do one more, we get done, and somebody had gotten a glass of, or a bottle of, I think, Macallan of some sort, probably really good stuff, and taken those little, called the Dixie cups, and it was like just a taste, and they brought them out on trays, like it was not high class at all, it was more fun than anything else. And the whole crew was like, that's a series wrap, what's on? And I was like, yeah! And a second later, the AD's like, all right, we're on the wrong set, let's go. And everybody went that way. And I was standing there by myself in the soundstage, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's how the show ends. And I went back, and I got ready, and I got my car, and I left. I mean, it's very unromantic how it all happens, the physical production. It all is made to look very differently. But then again, that's another one of those like lessons, I guess. It's just the way it goes. There's still work to be done. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Yeah. Just pick anybody. Doesn't matter. Just pick them a bit quicker.
Hi. My question is about Lucifer, actually. So I wanted to know, when you auditioned or started, did you know that Pierce was ending up going to be Kane, or did you not know that at the beginning?
I knew 3/4 of the way through the conversation I had with Joe Henderson, who was one of the show runners and creators. I knew, the call that I got was like, do you know the show Lucifer? And I was like, yeah, I watch it. Like, I've seen every episode of it. I'm a big fan of the show. And they'd like you to do an arc on it. I said, what's it about? And they said, well, one of the creators wants to talk to you because he needs to describe it to you. And I was like, okay. And so we spent the first 15 minutes with Joe talking to me about Smallville, because he watched every episode of Smallville. He was like totally into Smallville. He wrote a spec script for Smallville. He wanted to be a writer on Smallville. Never got the job, which was hilarious. So anyway, he knew everything that I'd ever done on Smallville, which was a good thing because he saw the action, the comedy, the drama, the sincerity. He saw all these different things that, if you watch Smallville, it's not about Superman. It's about this kid going through all these ups and downs, like kind of like I said before. But so he was like, I've seen all the different things you can do, and I think you'd be great for this. So he goes, and for the next 45 minutes, he just talked, and he was like, but he's not just a lieutenant, he's the Sinnerman. And then he goes on, I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys, but I'm like, who's the Sinnerman? Because I really didn't know what the Sinnerman was. I'm like, oh, that's cool, but he's not the Sinnerman, he's Kane. So it was like one of these things that I was like, this is dope. Over the course of the season, this character takes so many ups and downs, and I was like, this is going to be a great, fun character to play, and hopefully it was a surprise. One of the funny things was, at the beginning, was that Pierce was so boring that it was, I remember like people being like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, do you not know your lines? Like, you're saying these lines like they don't mean anything. Well, the point was that I wanted the audience to be like, what is this? What's this guy doing? What is he up to? And then slowly reveal these different moments and finally who he is. And now that that it's on Netflix, I'm very happy for Tom and Lauren and the whole cast to do that. I don't know what they're planning to do, but to me, I feel like that's a better home for it. I feel like they can really sort of get into the nitty-gritty of that show, because they're a lot of fun to work with, and I know that Lauren and Tom, and they have more to give to those characters, and I think they were allowed to before, so I'm looking forward to it.
You did a great job. It was really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, come over here.
Hi Tom. Other than the obvious villain, who I won't mention, who was your other favourite villain in Smallville?
Ooh. It's hard to quantify villain, because one of the greatest things about villains is that, villains don't ever think they're villains, if you know what I mean. I think, Michael Rosenbaum never, he can convince you that he was the hero of that story. That's how he played Lex, which is great. And if you go back and you watch the show, you can see that. He's not a bad guy. He's trying to do what he thinks is right. You're just not given as much information about his motivation as you are about Clark's, because it's Clark's journey. Lionel Luthor, to me, was always very interesting. That's a character that, look at all the different ups and downs that he went through. And John is probably one of the best actors I'll ever work with in my life. So I think for me, knowing that I was going to do a scene with John, it was always exciting, very exciting. So I would probably say Lionel Luthor, because he never knew what he was going to do, ever. You never knew. And when we did that episode where we switched bodies.
That's really good.
Yeah, well, it was a simpler thing for me, because he has so many things he does with his body that I could sort of take those mannerisms, set those up, and then the audience goes, oh, that's him in that body. Whereas Clark just kind of stands there. You know what I mean? If you didn't tell anybody it's somebody else in his body, you wouldn't know. And John came to me, he goes, he's like, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I go, what do you mean? And he's like, you just stand there. You don't move. And I'm like, I don't know, I guess I just stand there. I go, I'm always curious of how you complicate everything you do. He's like, oh Tom, I complicate everything in my life. Everything is complicated. But that was a very good acting thing for me to go through, to see the way he did that, because he was very, and I mean this, I would say this in front of him, that was a really big challenge for him to just sort of slow things down and be naive and not be a mastermind, because his character was so all-knowing and wise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
Hi, I don't know if you've already answered this question.
Yes. No.
So, playing the villain and being a good guy, 10 years solid, you technically played Superman. Sorry. For 10 years, you technically played Superboy. He was the good guy. As you said, transference, that was a great episode.
I think technically I played Superman for half a millisecond, to be honest. It was literally the last thing you see in the series.
Yeah, that's why I said Superboy.
Yeah.
So when it comes to actually not being a villain,
but
embodying the character of it, how do you actually prepare that? Because technically you are Superboy, so when you're going into, Kane, and I don't know if you, let's say you have to become two different personalities. How do you flip that switch to become that other personality? Because you're so used to playing one character, which is fanboy.
Okay, so here's a funny thing. So one of the things about Clark was, Clark didn't know what he was doing at the beginning of the series, and I didn't know what I was doing. So that helped. The writing was very good, the story was very good, the love triangle was very good. The show itself was a very good show. It really helped tell the story of Clark's journey. It wasn't that I did all that much, to be honest. If you go back and you look at it, I'm not really doing much except being confused and sort of unsure of myself. That was pretty much me. As the show went on and you had to sort of nuance and play these different versions and your character has more knowledge of himself, then you start to figure stuff out. But there was a very good theory that I heard about why. So it's much easier to play a character. How do I say this? If you know who your character is, it's simpler to then play a character who's different from your character, because you know what the difference is. If you don't know who your character is, well then how can you make different choices? One of the things that comes out of being a classically trained actor, which I'm not, is these sort of studies. I've looked into this stuff and I've talked to some really talented actors about this stuff. But British actors, for example, and to be a British citizen, you guys know what it feels like to be from here, right? So you're very adept to recognizing what's not from here. That's an advantage. In America, it's a mishmash of people, and you're kind of from here, you're kind of from here, but we're all kind of American, so to play then a British person, we can see that difference and you can play that character. Yeah. Am I making any sense?
You are.
But like when you get into like the bizarro worlds of switching bodies and things like that, you just try to make different choices and hope that the story supports it. I make a joke, which I've made at other panels, of like when Michael had to play General Zod, and they put him in this long leather coat, and they bring him in on this crane, and he just starts twisting backwards, and he's like landing backwards, and he's got to say kneel to Zod, which I don't think we ever got face to face. I think even I think he had to say it to the back of my head at one point, because we couldn't look at each other, because it was just so goddamn ridiculous that he's saying it, and he's like shorter than me and stuff. So I guess my question is, you just have to make different choices as an actor for that character, and hopefully that plays in, because you kind of already look like the guy. Like Clark looked a lot like the Bizarro Clark. You know what I mean? So it's just little things. I think when there was an episode, maybe you guys remember the episode where Clark had like that red shirt on. Cassidy Freeman is like, she's playing Lex's sister, and she's trying to offer this version of Clark a drink, and he kind of looks at the glass, but he doesn't drink because he's not drinking. Do you guys remember that episode, whatever it is? That was one of those things where it was like, I had to make very specific choices about how I sat, and how I was sort of being more just, I don't know.
So it helped you basically to develop your character?
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Okay, should we get this one right down the front here? Else, I'm sure she's going to burn my face off.
I'm going to explode. Hello.
Hi.
This is like a general question. So.
General Zod?
just overall, have you ever auditioned for or been offered a role that you've then turned down and you've regretted it? And what was it?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what they are. I mean, yeah, there's been a couple things I've gone in for where there's been a few things I've gone in on, and I'm not trying to be like whatever, but some things I've gone in on that I really want, I didn't get, and when they come out, I'm like, I'll watch it, and some of them I'm like, okay, I dodged a bullet, or the other one I'm like, oh, it just wasn't for me, and then there's a couple where I'm like, God damn it, like I really wanted to be on that show. There's a few series on TV right now that are waiting. I mean, I went in for this thing which, I'm going to be honest with you, I was perfect for. I looked the part, like if the character description was like literally 6'3", all American, like dark hair, green eyes, blah, blah, blah. And the guy, I did my audition, the guy goes, no, they just don't think you're the guy. And I really wanted to be like, you literally described me right here. And they're like, yeah, I was just doing this, thank you. And then, so it happens, yeah, I'm not going to tell you which one that was though.
Okay, question from over here? Yeah, guy there. Yeah.
Teamwork.
Hello, Tom. Thank
Hello.
you for coming. Obviously, you starred in dozens of episodes, which we're all truly grateful for. You've also directed many. Do you have a favourite scene that you directed?
Well, there was a scene, the first one I directed was with the little girl with the glass, and she won an award in Canada for Best Young Actor that year for that episode. So I was pretty proud about what she did there, and she brought a lot to that because I was juggling a lot. The only things I've ever directed are things that I've started 90% of. So I only know how to direct when I'm in it. But she was such a good actress. We had a whole cast. The gentleman who played her father is a tremendous actor, and they were very helpful to me. Sort of I remember saying things to them like, oh, and they'd be like, so you mean this? And I'd be like, yes. And they'd be like, okay, and then they'd go and do it. So that was very memorable. There were other scenes between like, there was something I directed where Lex and Lana were kissing in front of a fire, and we had to cut because Michael wasn't really kissing her like a guy, like a man. Like he was kind of like puckering a little bit, like waiting for her to kiss him. It just wasn't right for the scene. I mean, maybe that's how it worked in the relationship, but it didn't work for the scene. And so we had a funny moment where I was like, cut, can you kiss him? Yeah, we figured it out. There was a lot of good moments. The great thing about directing is you learn, it informs who you are as an actor, because sometimes you're asked as an actor by a director to do things that you don't understand why you're being asked. Whether it's technical or timing or, you know, can you look over here or can you just wait for this beat? And you're like, yeah, but my character wouldn't do that. Well, sometimes your character just needs to do it, you know. There's a good saying that from Hitchcock, which is, you can do whatever you want, but if the camera doesn't see it, it didn't happen. And that's a pretty good lesson in that, you can, it's acting for camera, in a sense. If you don't want to do that, then you might be in the wrong place. But there's a lot of funny moments. I had the opportunity to direct with, it's like bowling with bumpers for me, in a sense, where I was very familiar with the cast, very familiar with the crew. We were all helping each other, so it was a very safe environment to explore sort of what we were doing. I think we got some good stuff out of it. I mean, the sort of Justice League episodes we did, that Glenn and I sort of did the back-to-back, that was pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty big stuff for television, even now, I think. So, this is fun times, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, pick someone, doesn't matter who.
Hi Tom.
Hello.
My question is, what's the most embarrassing thing you ever done on set?
Would everyone here answer that question? What's the most embarrassing thing? Okay, I will tell you this. There was a time, I think I know actually, what's the most embarrassing thing? I was directing an episode where, I forget what we were doing, but the shot that we wanted to do and the way we were going to set it up, it was like the last thing of the day to start the scene, was so elaborate and took so much time and everything else, and it had something to do with me wheeling something in and Chloe being there, and we had to talk back and forth about what to do. And we set up this shot, we did the rehearsal, and we're in the rehearsal because, I'm thinking about everything. I'm reading what they call sides, which is like a miniature version of the script, so I can sort of focus on all four things at once, you know what I mean? So then I go back, get the makeup on, I come back, whatever, and they're like, oh, we're ready to shoot. We don't need rehearsal. I'm like, great, we don't need rehearsal. Let's get this done, let's go. We go in there like, action. I realized I didn't know my lines. Like the one thing I forgot to do as a director and a producer and everything else was actually learn the dialogue. I was very familiar with it, but I literally had to stop and say, I'm sorry, I need 5 minutes, I need 10 minutes, whatever it was. And everybody's like, okay, like, it wasn't as big a deal to them as it was to me, because I was so embarrassed, because it's just like, you never want to do it. And Allison and I ran lines for like, 5 minutes, and I was like, yeah, good. And we got it done in like 1 or 2 takes. But it's very embarrassing. It's like showing up to work with your clothes off. Like, and you didn't realize it until you got there. That was probably the most embarrassing thing. Because if you mess up, or you slip and fall, or, those things, that's all like, whatever. But when you're just unprepared, that's like the worst.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next one. Yep.
Hi Tom.
Hello.
Over the 10th series, we obviously got a lot of characters from a wide range of the comics.
Yeah.
Was there any that you wanted to appear on the show that didn't?
The one that surprised me the most was Martian Manhunter. I really liked that because I liked what that character did for Clark, first of all, how it formed him. And as myself, I had no idea how badass that character was. And as I learned how powerful he was and what he meant in the DC universe, I was really like, oh my god, how come I never heard about this guy? Because he's really powerful and crazy. Aside from that...
Ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have your attention, please.
Are we going to evacuate?
We have a very large guest announcement for Sunday, tomorrow. Our guest announcement will mean that we have 8 Doctor Who's in the building tomorrow.
Woo! Yeah!
That is a world record. We'll have 9 Doctor Who's at one convention for the first time in the world.
I love that band.
So David Tennant will be here tomorrow. You can meet him. Tickets are on sale at our online shop. And everybody round of applause for a record-breaking show. Thank you.
So what was I saying?
Marshall Man on there.
I think he was, I honestly, I just at the moment I can't think of someone who didn't appear who I wish would have. I draw a blank. I just remember him being, Martian Manhunter just being like, well, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him, or he doesn't have some sort of film or something himself because he's so interesting to me. Maybe I'll go do that.
Okay, one from over this side.
Hello. Who do you look up to as an actor?
I look up to a lot of people. I mean, early on, and still do, like Warren Beatty and Harrison Ford and Gene Hackman. I mean, I find myself drawn to guys who sort of acted, directed, and produced, and sort of went down that road. One of the reasons I did a movie called Draft Day was I really just wanted to meet Kevin Costner. Like, that was really why I wanted to do it, and then it just turned out to be a really interesting movie, which I still watch when it's on. I just think it's funny. I'm always like, how's he gonna pull it off? And I was like in the movie. I know exactly how he's gonna pull it off, but I'm still surprised. But I think like Kevin would be a great person like that I would say I look up to. Just guys who sort of, you know, make it happen, and they're rare. You know, there's not a lot of guys out there who are able to do that now. It's just a different sort of business. But like Robert Redford and Paul Newman and those guys. And there's a lot of great filmmakers out there. I think filmmakers more than anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've got time for one more. So yeah, go on, right at the back there.
Hi, Tom. Hi.
Where? Oh, sorry. You sound like you're right here.
Sorry, I'm here. If there was any pranks played on one another during the filming of Smallville, what was the best prank that was played and who was it played on?
Well, the best one was when we had Michael Rosenbaum dress up in a green screen outfit for no reason in front of a green screen, and then we put wires on him, and we somehow convinced him that it was for some visual effect shot where he had to, even though we had this huge, what's called a techno crane, which can go from like, probably from here all the way to you, and from here all the way to the top of the building, we convinced him that because of the nature of the shot, the camera had to stay still. But in the shot, we wanted it to rise, but because it was a green screen, we needed him to just squat out of the frame. But he had to start from a squatting position, which meant if he went any lower, as you all know, it becomes very awkward not to fall over. And I think we did it 2 or 3 times, and he has like, and then we said, we need the green screen mask over your face. And he's like, well, then why do I have to be here? If I have a green screen mask, put my face on there. I'm like, well, no, but then we'd have to do a green screen day of just your face. And we convinced him, and we had him put his hands up like this, and we're like, now do jazz hands. And basically he finally got, there was a point to him being in it, but we got it like the first take, and we spent 10 minutes just fooling around. And he loves that story, by the way, because, you know, as long as you're paying attention to him, he's happy. So, yeah.
So before we finish off then, what are you up to now? What are your plans for the future?
Yeah, it's bad luck. Well, a friend of mine told me you never have a job until you're on set, and even then you can get fired. But there is a limited television series that I'm talking about doing, and there's also 2 films I'm talking about doing. So hopefully, you know, come next year, there'll be more different pictures for me to sign or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm still doing some stuff. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
and I'm going to do Justice League movie.
Mr. Tom